First of all, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to talk today about a topic that I've become very interested in recently, kind of over the past year, and the interest has been growing for sure, and that's just the danger of fast fashion and how to find alternatives that are better for you, better for the planet, better for society more broadly. So just a little bit about me. Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie. My pronouns are she, her. In addition to being an assistant at TFA, I am also a student. I'm a senior at GW. I double major in international affairs and theater, and I have a minor in Arabic language. So that's what I'm studying. Currently in a little bit of a break, and I'll just be graduating in the fall. And that's my Instagram handle if you want to get in touch at any point. So I am by no means an expert on what I'm going to be talking about today, but I am an expert in my own self-discovery and how I'm learning, and that's all that I'm going to be attempting to uncover today. I think the first thing I want to address is just the problem I've been researching. I think within the past year, maybe a little while longer than that ago, I had kind of a big revelatory moment of just how much I personally contribute to a lot of the issues and things that I just naturally am against in my own values. And so I think, like you, Kiki, I have like so many clothes, and it's something because it was, they say the phrase like retail therapy. I would always, if I'm sad, if I'm upset, if I need a break from schoolwork because I've been pushing myself too hard, like that's what I would do is I just go walk and try clothes on. And so I was thinking about that. I started learning more about sustainable fashion and things like that, and just realizing how much I was going against what I really value, which is protecting the environment and protecting the rights of workers in companies that are often really, really horribly undervalued. So these are a couple things I just want to go into some, I guess, issue points that really matter to me with this problem. So here is some statistics and things. One of the big points of reference for me was the Clean Clothes campaign, which is sponsored by the European Union, and they're having a really big push to really examine fashion brands and their impact both on the climate and for workers. And one thing I found is that 93% of fashion brands that are surveyed by this website do not pay garment workers a living wage. So they aren't able to afford healthcare, adequate food, adequate shelter, anything like this. And oftentimes, a majority of these wages are under $4 a month, which is absolutely ridiculous. And on top of this, I've taken a couple law classes in school so far, and I've read numerous cases of international law of governments going against each other because of unsafe working conditions that are put upon workers in various countries and under a lot of really huge multinational corporations as well. So I wanted to show that. I think the next thing I want to emphasize how much this disproportionately affects women. Something that I'm really passionate about as well is gender equality. I'm a founding member and the global outreach director for a new nonprofit that's entirely run by people my age and younger. And so we've started 35 chapters in 17 countries, and it's all dedicated to kind of preventing the harmful impacts of the gender binary. And so this is something that I really care about a lot. And on this topic of sustainable fashion, I found out that 80% of the garment workers are women. This quote here is from a woman in Bangladesh who works in a garment factory. She says, "Women can be made to dance like puppets, but men cannot be abused in the same way. The owners do not care if we ask for something, but demands raised by the men must be given consideration, so they don't employ men." This quote just really hit me really hard, and it's been something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I think it just really goes to illustrate the exploitation of women in this working environment. Next, I think another plane of disaster that the fast fashion industry really wreaks upon our planet is how much it contributes to climate change. Fashion contributes to 8% of all carbon emissions, and textile production contributes more to climate change than a combination of international aviation and shipping, which really blows my mind. It's also a lot of the practices of creating the cloth today uses a lot of really harmful chemicals that seep through the water into agriculture, and a lot of plastic in the ocean is also due to the factory processes of putting these clothes together. And then finally, I think, we've covered the human cost, we've covered the environmental cost, and generally a lot of these things are pretty directly the fault of corporations and the companies that are selling these clothes. But I also do want to address consumer behavior because I think that's a really big problem as well. Kind of what we were talking about at the beginning, like with consumer culture and trends moving so quickly and always going after the next best thing, and the reevaluation of beauty standards, like weekly, it almost seems. There's so much waste that goes on with fashion. So I found out over $500 billion of revenue or of value are lost each year due to clothing underutilization, because we see a trend, we buy something, a week later we throw it away because it's not trendy anymore. Then also that contributes to the 12.8 million tons of clothing that Americans dispose of annually that end up in landfills and end up polluting our planet. So now I've kind of outlined the 3 costs to fast fashion. This is what kind of the title that's been playing around in my head is the true cost: human rights, pollution and climate change, and also just the general waste and how our attitude towards consumption is really harmful. And I think all of these kind of intersect around the topic that TFA pop-up is really driving, which is like living in a healthy environment and what is natural versus unnatural. So now I'm just going to talk a bit more about the project and what I think we can do. Like Kiki had mentioned before, I was taking this class last semester. It was the first art class I've taken since I was 12. So it was a big deep dive into fine art and things like that that I was not accustomed to or anything, but I learned so much about I think how you can respond to social issues in a creative way. And so I'm a very visual person, and so I decided to go back to an image that kept sticking out in my head as a way to address this issue. And so I'll show that next. So yes, I saw this image in October. These are just 2 bags of little H&M tags. They're like the little care labels and clothing tags. And to give you a little bit of context, these were found in the hundreds of thousands, all buried in a nature preserve in Sri Lanka, literally in a nature preserve. So I think the image stuck out to me just first of all, but also, maybe it's because I shopped at H&M all the time. That's one of the places I would go when I needed a break from homework. Or maybe it's because I always thought, it's a brand that very often advertises that they have sustainable practices or they have certain fabrics that they use that are sustainably made. But I'll get into that a little bit later. But the idea of greenwashing, I think, is something that I really just I don't know, found out about all of a sudden, and it really hit me. And so this image just made a huge impact. I think also the fact that these tags in that horrible like plasticky fabric that are used in all these care labels, they're found on everything. Any company that you buy from, you're going to have one of these tags on it. So that's something that really stood out to me. And so I decided to kind of reinvent the tags as my socially engaged art project. So I have some little mock-ups here. These are just like really basic ideas. I just like did it on Microsoft Word, but the idea was to reinvent these tags and show different things. In this case, the focus is the human rights and workers' rights side of things. So you see the transformation from left to right. instead of cotton and spandex, it's exploitation and 5% of a living wage, and made in the USA is made unsafely now. So this is one example. Another one that focuses more on, there we go, focuses more on the waste aspect is machine wash once before sending to landfill, not for reuse. And so kind of my idea with this is I'm working on it as I continue to ponder the project and come up with more examples of these. What I'm hoping to do is make these really large versions, really oversized, and embroider this text on there, because that's something I like to do. Ideally, you know, I would love to project an image of this like on a clothing store. Like I always think of in New York City, there's that massive H&M that's multiple stories wide. Like I would love to just project this up on there and let everyone know what's been going on, since that's the image that really sticks in my mind. But also, you know, the skeptic in me asks, you know, I make these tags, but what is that going to do? What action will that promote or tell people to accomplish? And so that's kind of part 2 of the project, is I want to be create a community space within my own community that teaches people how to repair and upcycle, that really promotes local and small businesses and sustainable businesses. Also, you know, promoting and featuring local tailors, seamstresses, etc., and businesses that people that are in the business of repairing and making things last longer. And then I think my personal mission is really to change my habits, and also learn very publicly. I want people to see as I'm making my changes to my own self. The last thing I'm going to talk about is just some considerations and kind of where I am with the project at the moment. I think there are a lot of things that are still under consideration. I think the issue of fast fashion, it seems relatively straightforward at first. It's like these bad companies are doing bad things, but it really is so much more complex than that. And so I'm kind of currently in the process of evaluating the situation to make sure that I understand every aspect of it fully. As you'll see here. If there is one thing that I have learned in my 3.5 years of being an international affairs major, it is that intent hardly ever equals impact. With policy decisions, I think 9 times out of 10, probably, the impact is much more negative than predicted, if it's even predicted at all, in a negative sense. And so these are things that I'm really thinking about, and they give me a lot of concerns about the project. The first one, you know, I just need to make sure that my work has the lowest possible chance of harming the communities that I'm trying to help, and the planet that I'm trying to help. So I think, first of all, you know, it takes a lot to get to the point where a company feels pressured by a boycott. So if I'm putting pressure and saying like these companies are bad, they're not doing good things, the workers are the ones that are going to feel that first. And so that's a big concern I need to address. Also, you can't erase a consumer mindset overnight, and overconsumption, even of sustainable goods, is never sustainable. You know, I will be the first one to admit, as when I was learning about fast fashion, my first instinct was like okay, I'm just going to go shop a lot at thrift stores and secondhand stores and things like that. But I also have been thinking about that more recently. I don't want to contribute to prices in those stores going up, people that need to access those stores not being able to because of price changes or because of limited stock and things like that. So just a lot of things that I'm thinking about. So these are kind of the questions I'm asking at the moment: how to achieve change from the source of the problem, which is mainly these companies, and how cautious do I need to be of greenwashing and companies that'll say like, oh, we're doing this sustainable initiative, this is our new campaign, but in the meantime, we're finding thousands of tags in the middle of a nature preserve. And then just the last one is, am I fully aware of the complexity of the ecosystem that my project is attempting to disrupt? So yeah, these are the things I'm thinking about, and kind of putting stuff together. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope that I'm still learning. I hope I was able to show you something that you didn't know, and you're able to learn along with me as I go through this process in this project. Here's just how you can get in contact with me if you like. Thank you.